and actually hit the record button and not the live button. We're professionals this time. And we have a lot of topics, which means we're going to be way over an hour. We have eight amazing topics, and we were definitely sound checked before I started streaming.
Test. 1, 2, 3.
We're pretty close, right? It's a good thing
Sweet.
I don't ever stream outside of Monday nights.
I'm going to turn myself up a little bit so you can hear my nice voice.
Oh my goodness.
Is that too much?
Yes.
I guess I can't actually see my voice underneath my own face, which, yeah.
I have you turned down
Now I can see
13
myself.
decibels.
Perfect.
I have you turned way down.
If we're not perfect, then somebody will let us know.
Yeah, right. Speaking of people knowing, Apple wants to know what you're looking at. And there's a creepy new patent that I'm not exactly thrilled about. But I guess we could have all saw it coming. Apple,
I get it.
There you go, you got it. Apple has patents about watching you. And then Apple's also expanding their FaceTime to the Apple HomePod and Apple TV, which seems like they're a year too late on that one. But
yeah, right.
I guess they got around to it, which is a good thing. We have something here about something about overclocking. But
You've heard of overclocking, but have you heard of over-memoryying?
Is that just when I want 128 gigs to play Fortnite?
It's not actually. It's even better.
It's even dumber.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you check out the URL, you'll see.
Yeah, I see
Anyway,
it. Right.
We'll talk about the article. Yeah. LG is closing down their mobile phone business amid no buyer wanting them.
And no users wanting to use an LG crap phone that is despicable and is unusable. And you're Moto, aren't you? Not LG. Darn it.
Yeah, Motorola.
I was hoping you're LG there.
Nope.
And I realized that I remember that you had the shake to turn on, shake to turn off, the flashlight. I was like, yeah.
That's a great feature. It really is great, though.
It is really good. Apparently, USB-C is going to be worse than USB-A.
Well, there's a specific aspect of USB-C that could make it worse than USB-A, depending on how it's implemented by developers, if they want to make your life
terrible.
miserable.
It's going to be miserable. Depending on it's going to be bad. As long as it's not micro USB, I think we're all going to be okay, though.
It's worse in this aspect, actually.
Oh, no. So it looks like you can make hard drives bigger if you redefine what a hard drive is. And that's exactly what they're doing now. They're making bigger hard drives.
They're so hard.
I mean, solid state drives are also hard. Like, they're still as solid. In that case, hard drives are solid state drives. Oh, man.
But they're moving. But yeah, I guess they are in this solid state. They're not gas or liquid, so there you go. The more you know.
Wait. So is electricity a solid? What does electricity it has to be one of them, right? It can't be
electricity is, dude.
Because electricity is light, I would assume. It's some type of energy. I have no idea, right?
Something about
our smart viewer will know exactly what electricity is.
Will he?
No.
No.
So the future of Xbox is not going to be in the hardware, as a big old rebrand session's going on. And I'm pretty sure everyone that knows gaming pretty much talked about this already, that the Xbox is dead as a console that's sold by Microsoft as hardware. And then what's this about Google?
All your clicks belong to me.
Belong to me.
Yep.
That was actually pretty interesting. And you're banging your desk.
Am I? Oh,
yeah.
Let me get rid of these pencils.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just had to use the kind of meme-ish title, right? For the Google one, and also the you've heard of overclocking, but have you heard of over-memoryying? Yeah.
If it can run Doom.
It can definitely run Doom.
All right, so these Apple patents, I don't understand them, but I understand the idea, I think. This is over on Mac Rumors. Apple's filed several patents here, talking about a way to watch how their users' eyes gaze. Most likely, it looks like it's going to be implemented with the camera, I would assume. And so as you look at your device, the camera's going to be watching to see how your eyes are being tracked. That is, from my best understanding, how that works. Otherwise, you're going to find an Apple professional. Do you understand any more of that?
It looks like it's going to be something built into some goggles or glasses.
Oh, so it's not going to be like... okay, so here it is. Apple's working on smart glasses and an AR VR headset, with the headset to come out in the first, followed by the glasses.
So, I don't know. I know there are some other, obviously there are other eye tracking softwares, and some of them have a use. I know that head tracking, for example, when you're playing games, we've played some Microsoft Flight Sim. So the head tracker would be nice to have on top of your monitor, so you could look left in real life and it could shift your view left in game to make it a more seamless experience. And I've seen some videos of eye trackers where people wear them when playing games, and it can show where you're looking during the time that you're playing the game. So it could be helpful possibly for tutorial videos where, you want people to know what is important at that time, so they can see, hey, this really good player is looking at this area of the screen when this is happening. So maybe, that's something that I should be paying attention to when I'm playing. But this is something new and different, but it's using the same kind of, technology, eye tracking.
So your instinct, I guess, is much more like helpful for the user. It's when I first saw this, I was thinking this is how employers are going to ensure that their employees are looking at the screen and actually doing work.
And it could certainly be that too. I've actually heard from a friend who does some truck driving as a job, and in his truck he has a camera that monitors him as he's doing his routes to make sure that he's not looking at his phone or in a beer as he's
working and driving, right?
Yeah, as he's working, driving a truck. So it could go that way as well, and it probably will go a little bit of both ways. So I would consider that more on the creepy side. Like, I can understand how that would be useful for employers to see specifically, is the employee actually working? But then as an IT guy, that could be super helpful if you're trying to troubleshoot something, to have almost like a replay mode, so that if something goes wrong, Windows could like capture like the last 30 seconds of what the user did and what the user was looking at. That could be super helpful in figuring out like what the user did to screw up their computer or something, almost as a diagnostic tool, like a black box on an airplane or something, just to help save the computer. I mean, it's super creepy that the computer be recording you all the time. Yeah. But on the other hand, it could be super helpful on saving you a lot of money. Yeah, and I think it'll be used for both purposes. It'll, app developers will probably be able to use it to, build apps that the users enjoy playing or using, but also Apple will probably use it to track people. And
so I think app developers would instead, if they were able to get this technology on the phone or something to see where people are looking at in their game, figure out where to put their targeted ads. Where is the person looking on the screen? And we're going to stick an ad right there. Can't play mobile games, people. Not a chance.
But it'll be interesting to see how this works out with the glasses and also other devices.
Yes. Yeah. So like one of the things I would be okay with, which might be a little different, is eye tracking in my VR head setup. I would be okay with the analytical data of while I'm playing VR, they could have what my eyes are looking at, because my eyes are literally doing nothing but the game. It's not
Yeah.
like when I'm on the computer here, it's like, oh, my eyes are at the camera. They're on my center screen. They're looking at you over here. They're looking at, what the people see over on my left. And like, to me, that's a little creepy if there's a way for them to track that, which there is if they just record this live stream, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm playing VR and I'm specifically doing that one task, I'm more okay with it. But like,
Because you know what's going on if that was the case.
yeah, I think a big part of it too is that I would know that's happening. So it's like one of those things that, you don't realize how much data Facebook's collecting on your phone, because it's not collecting just what you do on the Facebook app, but it actually watches what you do on other apps on your phone. And it's like, that's really creepy and uncomfortable, but most people don't know that. They just assume that, oh yeah, Facebook watches me on Facebook, and that's all they can do. It's like, no, they have a lot more permission than that these days.
And part of this article, let's see where it is. Beneath figure 6, 2 paragraphs down, it says, in the latter patent, Apple envisages the eye tracking system being used to analyze the position and movement of the user's eyes, or to detect other information such as pupil dilation. In one example, identifying the point of the user's gaze allows for interaction with content shown on the near eye display of the head-mounted display. So you've got that screen on your glasses in front of your eye, and you're able to interact with it by looking different areas. While another application includes the creation of eye image animations that could be used for digital avatars visible to other users in a mixed reality communal environment. So say you're playing an online game with friends and you have this stock avatar, or whatever it is representing you in the game, and now this you in the game can look left and right. His eyes can move just as yours do in your headset, which is kind of similar to what you talked about a week or two ago with some face tracking with a VR headcam, so you could make facial expressions in games. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So those are 2 examples of, I guess, ways that app developers could take advantage of this feature, but then I'm small now.
You're small. I clicked on. I was trying to adjust your audio, and it all went weird. You're still small.
Hey, I'm shrunk. Hey there.
What is that, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or something? There we go.
Hey,
Wow.
I'm big now.
That was a mess.
Speaking of a mess, 1 year late.
Yeah, I just read the headline to this, and I was like, wow, they couldn't have planned this any worse.
Yeah, because these devices took off when everything struck and everybody started working from home and meeting remotely. Zoom capitalized on that opportunity, and Apple lagged behind a little bit.
But yeah, so apparently Apple now has a TV wrapped with a speaker around it, from the looks of it.
Looks like a tiny little thing.
Yeah, it is very odd. It almost seems like that they would almost just like regenerate the original iPod at that point.
Yeah, really. It's just with a much bigger speaker to screen ratio.
Right. So one of the interesting things that came up on me thinking about this is that my sister was in need of a webcam for her laptop. So she has a much older laptop, but it's fairly high spec when it came out, so it's good enough for the moment. But the webcam and microphone built in is not very good. So she was asking for a new webcam just to stick on top of it, so that she can do interviews for trying to find an employee. And so I was like, well, here's several suggestions, and I actually have several different camera setups. And so I I plug in the camera and the microphone, or just the webcam in some cases. And I was like, this is this webcam with this microphone, and here is the quality of the video, and here's the quality of audio. Let me step back out of focus. Let me walk into focus. Here's what the color looks like. And just like little 20-second videos showing like a $30, a $60, and then a setup like this that's like $800. And it was amazing how big of a difference going from a webcam to a real camera quality does make.
Okay.
So it'd be interesting to see if more devices like this would come out where it's not really focusing on anything but picture quality, video quality, and audio quality.
Yeah.
Because when you buy the difference between a $60 webcam and a $300 camera, there's not really any middle ground there. It's like, why isn't there, you know, a $150 like professional webcam? Why can't a webcam get this kind of footage? Like, it shouldn't be impossible at this point.
And then the difference between an actual third-party webcam versus a webcam that's on a laptop too. I'm sure there's a pretty big
like a
difference there,
2010 laptop.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it would be interesting to see if devices like, you know, this Apple HomePod would become a webcam variant of some sort.
Yeah, and it'll depend on the pricing too, which usually Apple's prices are insanely high, but I think the Apple TV cost about $99, which is actually reasonable-ish for something like this, especially if the camera quality is good enough. I mean, because you're going to pay $100, well, maybe not $100, but $60 for a decent webcam.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the hard things I had to explain. Was like, you know, if you're not spending $60 on a webcam, it's almost not worth buying a webcam at that. I mean, it's definitely better than not having anything, but
yeah. If you need it, you need it. But
it's definitely improving quality at an exponential rate in that price range.
The bang for your buck there is really good.
So it's still too early in this pandemic, which is a weird thing to say, to see what kind of effect it has. But I'm curious on if employment, who gets hired, makes a difference on their setup. So I'm curious if the audio quality and the video quality and the lighting and, you know, the full presentation, the whole package makes a difference if you come off as more qualified simply because you didn't have 15 minutes of microphone troubleshooting at the beginning of your interview.
Yeah. I would say it definitely could have an impact. Like, one, being in your home and the shape that your home is in, whether it's clean or dirty, organized, messy, I think that could have a huge impact.
Yeah. Or something super radical in the background.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going for an interview, hopefully you know.
Don't, but
clean it up a little bit. But I guess some people don't. But yeah, I mean, it's not a good experience if you spend 15 minutes debugging your audio issues, especially if you're going for a technology-related position. Kind of gives a bad look there.
Because, like, some of the things, like, an employer can decide not to hire you if you don't have a certain type of transportation or some sort like that. But they can't not hire you because you have a stutter or something, because, like, they have to make, was it, like, an acceptable amount of arrangements? Otherwise, it's discrimination on that. So I wonder if your quality is so low that's, like, if you think that...
Yeah, go ahead. You couldn't complete the job with, this system, maybe. Yeah.
It's almost like not showering before you come to the interview. It's like, yeah, you could do the job, but we don't want you to do the job. We need someone with 720p camera, none of that 360 stuff.
And it depends on the job you're getting too, because, like, in my example, my employer provides the laptop, and the laptop has a webcam, and they also provided a headset and a microphone for me to use, which I don't actually use that headset and microphone because I have my own, but they provide everything necessary for doing my day-to-day work.
So can I ask, is their headset and microphone nicer, or is it it's worse? Okay.
Yeah, I can grab it. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I understand they're trying to go for the cheapest thing they can get, and
no, I was curious if they just, like, defaulted to, like, everyone gets $100, you know, Yeti snowball or something, or if They're like, here's a $12 microphone that we had someone go out to Walmart and buy.
I would say it's probably like an office supply, so the price is probably a little bit higher than what it is, but I would say probably $40 to $50, which actually is about what I paid for this headset.
Okay.
But it's not over the ear or anything. It's just
Is it a name brand?
foam and it goes on the ear. I don't think so.
Make...
JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Yeah, it's built by NASA. Just kidding. But yeah, it's just USB. It does have a pretty nice noise cancellation, I believe.
Okay.
Background noise suppression. So
it would have made more sense if it was built by Sony or Logitech or someone that has a name in the game for headsets.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't know JPL, so
yeah, me neither.
It's almost like JBL, but the off-brand.
Yeah, but they provide everything that I need for the work, so that's nice.
It is very nice.
Speaking of nice, do you have any RTX 3070s yet?
Actually, no, I don't.
Reaches down to casually grab a box full of RTX 3070s.
Part of me was like, I should pick up like 13 of them and just hold them in front of the camera. Just be like, ta-da!
So there's a guy in Russia, and he has a YouTube channel. I haven't watched the full video, but he actually swapped out the chips on his RTX 3070 and installed an extra 8 gigs, I believe 8 gigs, or he got it up to 16 gigs, however many gigs it starts with.
Yeah, so 8 to 16.
70 to 16 gigs by swapping out the chips. No idea how hard it was to do that. I haven't watched the video. No idea how reliable that thing's gonna be. Couldn't really find this article from any of our normal news sources. There was an article here on Hackaday, and then it probably has a link to another article on like video.
Oh no, you froze.
Am I unfrozen now?
Yep, you're good.
But he also has a YouTube video up in Russian, but it also has English captions of him talking about it, and
yeah,
the video might also include him actually doing it, but yeah, pretty crazy.
So from my understanding of reballing chips and reinstalling them is that it is insanely hard and do not recommend.
I would imagine that it's probably pretty hard.
But oh, you froze again. So what you unfree? Oh, there you go.
I would imagine it's pretty hard, is what I said. Okay. Which you could probably assume that.
Right. But it seems like that the people that are able to do it are just naturally good at it. I gotta air quote that one. They're very skilled at it, and so chances are he is someone who actually does something of this sort for a living. So like Louis Rossman can do it, and then like Paul Daniels can do it. And there's a lot of really smart people that can reball chips and reinstall them with heat guns and such. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine it's actually really reliable.
That makes sense. It feels like something where you weed out the people who are bad at it pretty quickly.
Yeah. So like one of the famous sayings is there's no such thing as a dumb motorcyclist on the road, because all the dumb motorcyclists died. It's like,
yeah, he's a biker, so he can say that.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm one of them.
He's the dumb one.
Right. Yeah, right. Oh, we'll see if
he's the lucky one.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so it's one of those, like, because, this guy is on the news at this point, chances are he is one of the ones that is much more talented in the area. So yeah, like if he was willing to sell it at, a reasonable cost, I would buy it. I would have no problem be like, yeah, this will last. I would think it would.
And this article doesn't even mention like a comparison between the performance of the 16 gig versus the 8 gig. And I don't know how much a performance difference you're going to get with extra RAM on a video card. I guess for video processing and stuff, it could,
I think so,
be useful. But for gaming, I feel like
It's much more limited in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it'd be hard to push that, but pretty cool technologically.
Yeah. No, that is very neat.
I did not expect to see that article come through my feed.
You know what LG didn't expect?
To be shutting down their phone business.
For no one wanting their phone business. Literally no one will buy LG. It is that gone. That's really all there is to it. Apparently LG had a buyer in the works. I believe it was a Chinese company. Vietnamese.
Okay.
And apparently it had fallen through. And so without a buyer now, LG is looking at completely shutting down their phone business, which I guess goes to show exactly how hard the phone business is about to become, especially with
a big company like LG is dropping out. Yeah.
Which would push the question with, like, if LG is dropping out, what's the next steps? Because you have other small players, if you consider LG a small player, like Motorola or Nokia, that I would feel like that they would also start falling off, and it's eventually going to be like Sony, Samsung, and
yeah,
that's it. Like, who's left?
It'd be interesting to see what part of their revenue comes from mobile phone or mobile devices as opposed to things like televisions and appliances.
That would be interesting, because I was thinking, I was like, I think I even own an LG TV. I looked at it. It's a Sony.
Okay.
But like this past weekend, I sold 3 LG monitors. They're $350 monitors. They're not low end by any means of the imagination.
Yeah.
And they're great monitors. I never had a problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to see a big player like LG drop out makes you kind of worried that with Google giving Pixel owners, which is a Google company, you know, free photo storage.
Yeah.
Is this, you know, not the result, but you know, one of the many bullets, I guess.
All right. So can I send this to you in Discord?
Oh yeah, Discord's never broken.
This is from statista.com.
I'm sure
and they have statistics. I'm sure it's totally reliable. And it has the sales of LG Electronics by business segment from Q1 of 2016 to Q2 of 2020. So it's about a year old data as far as the most recent data is concerned. And it has a breakdown in their revenue. And most of their revenue, or I should say,
wow,
the biggest portion of their revenue comes from home appliance and air solutions. And then that accounts for, I would say, about 40% of their total revenue. I'm just eyeballing that number, honestly, but you can look at the chart for yourself. And then mobile communications looks to be about a 1/7 or so of their revenue. So
yeah,
kind of a big portion, actually.
And you're able to click on the different ones to have only certain ones. So mobile communications has actually dropped. So at 2016, it was, so it's in billions. It was 2.8 billion at its peak. And now it's, you know, the Q1 is down at 0.8 billion. So it's like a third of what it was 2, 3, 4 years ago. 4 years. Lord time.
And I guess a big part of that probably does have to do with Google coming into that market, and then also just lots of smaller companies competing for it. Like Huawei, maybe not smaller companies, but
yeah,
a lot of different companies competing for it.
Yeah. So yeah, it is interesting that they went from, in 2016, 2.8 billion in the mobile phone to 0.8 billion. But then if you select everything, they're averaging at like 10 billion from 2016 to basically 10 billion at the beginning of 2020. It dropped off at the second quarter 2020 because of the pandemic. I would assume, like, I'm pretty sure everything's gonna like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just because their phone market was definitely shrinking, and other areas are growing. So I wouldn't blame them for refocusing and shifting as a business should.
Especially if they're not making profits out of that one sector.
Right. It'll be interesting if they become like a Yamaha and it's the only company where you can buy a piano and a motorcycle from. We start seeing LG bikes or something. How radically different it can get.
And air solutions, whatever those are.
Air solutions.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the midpoint. So this video is sponsored by Jmart Media
and NephewTech.com. You better watch out, guys. My domain's up in a week. So if you can snipe it out from lazy me, it's all yours.
If only you could renew it a little bit in advance.
Oh, man, I get an email almost every day now. Namecheap does not want me to lose it. Oh.
Ooh, speaking of losing it, you might lose it over this article.
All I've done is load the first image, and I don't hate it yet because I don't know what this image means.
So, one of the really nice things about USB-C, along with the fact that it has faster data speeds and also less likely for breakage, because I've had micro USB ports or cables. Both, actually. I've had ports.
Everyone's had USB micro break on them.
And I've gone through more cables than I should admit. I don't know why I've gone through so many cables, but anyway, I have, and it's frustrating. So USB-C is nicer in that aspect. But there is one thing about USB. Oh, yeah, and another advantage of USB-C ports. I think I already mentioned it, but you can plug it in.
Oh, my God. I just read it.
But there's one thing about USB-C ports that is not completely symmetric. And by symmetric, I mean the same on both sides, if you're not familiar with that term.
The word symmetry?
the word symmetric. So apparently, if you have some kind of USB-C 2.0 instead of 3.0, either device or cable, there's two pins on the cable that are slightly different, and the device can detect that, like, USB-C 2.0 cable, and if it's turned one way or the other.
I have heard something kind of like this. Keep going though.
So a developer has gone and taken advantage, if you want to call it this, of this fact, and made a device where when the USB-C cable is plugged in one way, a green LED on the top of the device lights up, and if you turn it over, the green LED on the bottom lights up. So you can see which way it's plugged in. But if you scroll down to the tweet at the very bottom from _MG_, I think scroll down further.
Oh, I was looking. Okay, cool. It does do it.
Yeah, right there. This guy says, is there a way for a Type-C cable to detect rotation? I want to make a Type-C cable that implements Type-A mode so it never works until you have unplugged it and rotated it at least twice. Because you could plug it in, detect whether, it's
the right way or not.
One way or the other, and then flip it over, detect whether it's the other way now, and then have to flip it over again.
You know the worst part about that, though, is the delay it will take. With at least USB-A, you get instant feedback that it's not going to go in that way. Feedback so instant that you think the right way is also the wrong way.
Yeah.
But with C, you actually have to clip it in, wait for those lights to blink here to find out which way it actually goes in.
Yeah.
That delay would drive me nuts.
So this is something that would pretty much have to be built maliciously or trolliciously, like just to troll people.
Right.
So it's not going to accidentally happen where, they build a device and then you can't plug it in one way. But I did think that was kind of funny and unfortunate.
So actually, I had thought of this really cool project that we could do. I was going to talk to you about it off camera, but this kind of this is basically it in a way.
Okay.
A contraption where it has just a bunch of ports. So it's two lines of identical ports, And the idea is that you could take any type of audio cable adapter. So one end could be XLR and the other end could be a 3.5 TRRS headphone jack. You plug them both in and it will tell you which part of the tip goes to which pinout on the XLR, because the cables themselves don't tell you. So sometimes you'll buy a TRS 3.5 headphone jack and you need to plug it into dual XLR for input and stereo, but you don't know which one goes to what because the cable doesn't tell you. So if you don't have it in the packaging, you no longer know what that cable is for. It would be a super easy contraption in my opinion, because you just have you do the programming. But it's one of those things that I run into with my 100,000 audio cables. It would be really sweet to have just, you know, like a little 1 foot long, 6-inch wide box just full of ports, and you plug it on one side, plug the other end on the other side, and it'd be like, oh, this is what the connections do, or the contact points do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is doing. It's reading the pinout and then giving a much simpler readout output for it. Yeah,
with just a green LED.
But I was like, that would be a really fun project that I would actually use more than most people would think.
Yeah.
Because my current solution is just to grab multiple cables and just, no, that one doesn't work. Let me get a different one. Man, that one, it's mono, but it works.
Okay, so you mean that two like XLR to 3.5 millimeter stereo cables can be routed a different way from each other?
Let me show you one sec.
Okay. Because I guess I just assumed that all the cables, you know, routed the same.
So a good example for this is I got this cable here. It's one cable.
Okay.
One side is female XLR, which is what that is. And this is a 3.5, and this is TRS because it has two bands.
Okay.
Which way does it go? And is it stereo or mono? It's probably mono because it only has one end on it. But can I plug it into a phone? Will it work? Like, I have no idea what this actually goes to. The only reason I know what this goes to is because it came from a cheap microphone that I remember it came from. So it goes from a microphone input into a computer's microphone recording spot. It doesn't actually need to be TRS. It could be TS.
Okay.
But that's just because I know what the cable is.
Okay.
Because it was on top. But to know what the pinout would be would be super helpful in the emergency situation where I'm like, I know I have that cable, but which one is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a real life problem that I have. So I was like, I could solve that with someone else doing the hard labor.
I don't know. That sounds kind of hard to build, but I guess we'd have to think about it.
Yeah. And that was a total side conversation there in the center.
Wow, that thing started blasting video as soon as I clicked on this next link.
Oh, so you know what it doesn't do for me?
Show any ads?
Show any ads, which includes that video. Look at that. It's broken.
Aw. You don't get to have that nice young man scream at your ears?
Right. No
really loud.
ads. I bet. Oh, now I got site muted too. There we go. Fix that problem right up. So hard drives are about to get supercharged or totally rebranded. And well, I guess not rebranded. What do you call it when you completely change everything about the product but keep the branding?
Re-engineered.
I think you call that lying to your customer. So I don't fully understand this, which isn't shocking to anyone at this point. But so hard drives, they have the little disc in them they spin. That's pretty easy to understand. And
Yep.
forever we've been using the same magnetic reader for it. And we've just been continuously densing how many bits we put on it. And one of the biggest jumps we made was going from a single level cell to multi-level cell. So it used to be, I called it like a graveyard layout. Everything was flat and with each other, like a graveyard is. All the bodies are like at the same height. And so that's the idea. So the hammer's going over the grave and then like reading the tombstone, reading the data. That's what it's doing. And then it went into a shingle layout. And so they actually stacked them sideways on top of each other. Boop, 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 boop. And that was able to increase the density greatly, which increased the size of the hard drives. And then we also went from having just a single spinning disk and we call it the platters, single spinning platter in the hard drive to having multiple platters. And I've seen up to 4 personally. Like I've actually taken them apart and seen up to 4 in one. Okay. Apparently the current record is 9. If I saw that correctly somewhere.
I did see a 9 in here somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, that's mind blowing. So if you think a hard drive is, you know, 1.5 inches thick probably, and you have 9 platters stacked in that bad boy, that's mind blowing that those hammers are all that close together. The amount of heat that has to produce is outstanding. Yeah. So here, that's the 9 platters. And so it looks like that they're changing, instead of changing how the bits are stored or how they're even, well, I guess stored really. Yeah, instead of changing something on the platter side, they're now changing it on the hammer side, which is what hovers over the platters and reads all the bits. So this is the part I don't fully understand. And so they're going to a new technology called Hammer, HAMER, which has something to do with microwaves.
Yeah, so you already mentioned it, but the way that hard drives currently work is magnets. And down here, I don't even know what paragraph it is because
it's super poorly laid out.
Yeah. It says the solution may be 2 new techniques called microwave and heat-assisted magnetic recording. So MAMR and HAMR. And I guess the idea is that there's less kind of overflow of the writing. So with the magnet, if the magnet's too powerful, it could potentially accidentally overwrite the incorrect bytes. So I'm guessing that these must be able to have much more fine control of like a specific
surface area,
smaller surface area, with less risk of burning over. But how that actually works is way beyond me.
Correct, right? But it looks like because like right now you can pretty much go online and order a 12 or 16 terabyte or apparently the new 18 terabyte drives, which is just outstanding. I'm curious because they say it should enable up to 60 terabytes and possibly beyond. One part of me is curious if they're going to switch out from the standard size, because that there's an echo. The 5-inch standard size for hard drives is, you know, 1 inch taller, 1.5 inches taller, whatever that is. I wonder if they will expand that and do like double-sized hard drives, or like, I don't know, the McDouble drive if they want to go after McDonald's, I guess, and simply make, you know, and fix their problem that way, or if it's become such a standard that that's no longer an option to make them bigger.
Yeah, because all the cases and server racks for installing hard drives is already a certain size.
But because I mean, it's pretty clear now that we're getting down to such a small size that how much smaller can we go to the point magnetic field is too big.
Yeah.
So if we're going to switch to laser, you know, SSD would have to be the solution, but silicon's kind of running short, so we're not doing that one. So yeah, I would be interested to see what's going to happen with all the raw material shortages happening at the moment. You know, because Google's not going to shut down. They're gonna do something. Like they're gonna get those drives one way or another. It'll be interesting to see how they start storing data.
Mm-hmm. Gonna need some RAID to get those speeds with hard drives.
Right. So I think we talked about this one a lot, but I was like, hey, just in case we need to kick a dead horse, which it doesn't look like we actually do, we're at 45 minutes. Microsoft rebrands Xbox Live to Xbox Network. I don't think anyone was surprised by this, honestly. I wasn't. That's that, really. But Linus talks about this one a lot if you watch The WAN Show, which I know you don't. That Microsoft is moving away from hardware and simply software solutions. So instead they're going to software as a service, and it's been very obvious with Windows and Microsoft Office, and now Xbox is being rebranded. Xbox Live is being rebranded to Xbox Network. And I think a big part of that is because Xbox is being integrated more into Windows 10. And so one of the things Linus was talking about was that because there's already two versions of the Xbox out there, one's like the one with physical media, one's with digital, and like they're spec'd a little different or something, is that Xbox is going to soon be an operating system, and it's no longer going to be a hardware solution. So your Windows PC will soon run at like Xbox OS or something.
So maybe some kind of gaming OS that is stripped down to just run games and do some probably social media stuff.
Yeah. And I just made the neural connection. I think that's what they call it. Xbox OS would be XBOS, which is really close to XBOX. And I think they're going to do another rebrand here in a year or so, and they're going to make that work. That would be very clever.
Xbox.
But yeah, so I mean, I think this is a confirmation that they are moving towards Xbox as a service rather than Xbox as a console. Now they may continue to release the Xbox 2024, the Xbox 2025 as a hardware solution for those that don't want to have to buy a computer and get the Xbox solution on it if it's not pre-built into Windows for some silly reason.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see what exactly they are planning. But I would imagine that they're going to start doing more towards that as a service.
I can see that. And that could allow them to take a bigger hold on the desktop community too.
Yeah. One of the other benefits / drawbacks, depending on what side you're on this argument, is that it would more compete with Steam, which competition is always a good thing, they say. On the downside, that also adds, a split, because pretty much everything's Steam if it's not made by EA. And so to see, like, will Steam support the Xbox as it does Windows and Linux and Mac OS? Is that just going to be, the next one on the list? Or is it going to be Origin? And hopefully they play nice together, but, mega companies do what mega companies do, so...
Yeah. So now if you want to play a specific game, you might have to choose between Steam or Xbox.
Or even worse,
platform.
Right? Even worse is that you could have the game on either, but which platform is your friend using it on?
Yeah.
And if you have two friends and each one has it on a different platform, you can only play with one friend at a time. Like how
Surely there's got to be some crossplay there.
You think they'll have crossplay
Yeah.
stuff more? You
Yeah,
think they're as nice as PlayStation is? Can you name one game that has crossplay between Xbox and PC on the top of your head?
Apex Legends.
Darn. You got me. I was supposed to say
Yeah.
I can list a couple with PlayStation, but I can't list any with Xbox.
Yeah.
And I don't own either. So like I'm only Windows.
Yeah. Potentially good stuff. Potentially
So
not so great stuff.
silly question you might know off the top of your head. Is it called the PlayStation Network? Or is it?
I don't.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I don't know.
PlayStation Network. Yeah, it is.
It is okay. I see PlayStation Plus, Sony's online gaming subscription service for the PlayStation 4.
Oh, it is PS Plus.
PlayStation Network.
And then PS Now, PS Video, PS Music, PlayStation Network.
Okay, so a lot of different online services.
So they might be getting a rebrand soon with it all bundled together, maybe, or maybe they are keeping the different types of services split, which isn't a bad thing to have your services organized in a way that's easier to understand. We're looking at you, Google.
Speaking of Google,
So I was super confused by this headline, and I finally understood what you meant.
yeah, the my title of the article is slightly misleading. This is from Search Engine Land, and zero-click Google searches rose to nearly 65% in 2020.
So I had
Go
to
ahead.
Google what zero-click Google searches was. That's the part
Yeah.
I was confused about. So if you want to explain that part first.
Yeah, so what a zero-click search is where you go into your browser and you type out your question. So how many cups are in a pint? And then it pops up a result and you read the result from that search engine page. You don't have to click into any specific articles or any specific web links. That is a zero-click search because you're just searching and you get the result right there. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And I wasn't sure, there was some discrepancy somewhere in this article whether if you click on one of Google's services, if that still qualifies as zero-click
Oh, that's a
search.
good one.
I don't think it should, but because we're talking about Google here, I mean, it's the same thing. It's in the Apple and Google's site either way. But
Right.
this chart down here, the line graph under Google, yeah, right there, it shows the amount of zero-click searches compared to the amount of paid clicks, so clicks on ads, versus the amount of organic clicks. And you can see that most people who Google something don't click on anything, which is pretty crazy to think about. And somewhere else in this article, there's a stat that says, oh, where was it? I think it said that 70...
64.82 is a zero-click
Oh.
search.
If you go up to that first pie chart and that first paragraph beneath it, it says on desktop, 46.5% of searches were zero click compared to 77.2% on mobile devices. So there's a lot of people going on mobile devices and
Okay.
searching for something and not clicking on anything, as opposed to desktop where a lot more people do click on something. And I feel like the questions that you're Googling when you're on your phone are a little bit simpler. Like earlier today, we were making food, and I was wondering how many tablespoons or how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon. I didn't actually look it up, but that's something that would have been a zero-click search, as opposed to when I'm on my computer looking up news articles for, you know, Monday night stream.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be clicking on articles there.
And I think a lot of that has to do with just the way, I don't know, it's the way I've always done it. So I feel like that's just like the way all people work, is that, so even today, like if I'm working on the motorcycle and I can't get this clutch cable off, I'm gonna search you know, how to remove clutch cable and then the model of the bike, and on my phone downstairs. I'm not gonna come all upstairs and look it up, but then it's going to show me very first result's going to be like a picture of a guy just like pulling it up with a pair of needle nose pliers. I'm like, there we go. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
But then if I have a harder problem, like how to remove the left head gasket on the motorcycle, I'm not going to look that up on my phone. I'm going to come upstairs. I'm going to actually research it. And so I am curious if it is just like what you were saying, that the questions on the phone are those quick, snappy questions that you would think would be on the top of your mind almost.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's not work questions, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And this whole idea of zero-click searches ties back into the whole Google shutting down their service in Australia thing, because the idea is that Google's keeping people on their platform and preventing people from going to other platforms. So if Google shows the results of a news article straight in their search engine, they're kind of, I don't want to say taking advantage of, but they're removing the necessity to go to the actual news article itself and taking away traffic from that actual news article, which is why Australia wants to tax or make them have an agreement with those companies whose articles they're sharing, because they are, they're definitely pushing people towards those websites in terms of, people can actually find obscure Australian newspaper online, but they might not even need to go to that site. So
then would you argue that it would be up to the locals to ensure that their local news station stays in business? Because Google's not really doing anything wrong. Okay, from my point of view, Google's not really doing anything wrong, because that information is posted to their website free for anyone to click on. So if Google's
not distribute, not to take and distribute. So like I couldn't go in and take all the information in their article and repost that on my website to get people to read my website.
Now you couldn't redistribute it out without providing the proper credits, correct? Like I don't know the fancy word for that, but
yeah, I guess in some way, but I feel like ripping their entire article wouldn't qualify. But I mean, in the case of Google, they're not ripping the entire article.
They are
just
one paragraph.
Ripping the one paragraph of the keywords that you search for. And they are providing a reference to your site, the link to the article.
Right.
So.
And a lot of sketchy news sites don't provide references. They're just like, oh, we heard from our sources.
Yeah.
And
hey, shout out, we throw our sources down in the description.
Oh yeah, whenever I remember, which has been every week for 2 years.
Really?
I don't think I've ever missed a description. Oh, I've definitely missed 2, I think. I missed a couple.
Wow. I've missed a lot more than that. Not this week though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I mean, one of the big ones was Google ripping off lyric sites. And so they were hiding
same exact concept. Well, kind of, except unless they're ripping off.
And so in one of the lawsuits, a lyric site had is they were purposely putting some type of character or typo or something in for certain words, and then when you would search, this song lyrics on Google, and Google pulled up the lyrics, there would be that error, and the lyric site was like, look, like how much more proof would you need? No one would have accidentally made that typo. That is
so Google is actually ripping the data from their source. Not Google wasn't hiring their employees to listen to the songs and write down and record the lyrics themselves. They that is very, very strong evidence that
what name an innocent song.
Name a song?
Yeah.
How can I think of a song?
American Pie.
Of course. Okay, that works.
So if I type it in American Pie song lyrics, I now get American Pie Part 1 by Don McLean, and then at the bottom it says source music match. And I don't believe before it said that.
Gotcha.
And so now they are actually linking to, and so like the other one's like A to Z lyrics or something, but there's a couple.
I do remember people talking about that controversy.
Yeah. And so
a few years ago.
like I would put the news in the same category. Like just because that small town's newspaper is small, and they feel like Google is just, devouring them, which is a fair argument. You're putting it on your website for free for people to read. It would be different if it was a walled garden, and that you had to sign in to get the content. And then if Google was still figuring a way to rip that off your site, then you should go after them. One employee having a subscription to your site does not count. Google can't. Oh, you can just share my login details, is what Google's saying to the rest of the world, right? And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would almost be like smaller news companies would need to implement a walled garden method. And it's one of those, I tried to talk about this on Sunday. It'd be one of those, you have to find the good customers that will support the business, because there's usually enough of them to support the business. On the downside, you're going to lose a lot of the free customers, but you're going to find out exactly who your customer base is. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. That's one of those things that each company's going to figure out on their own. And on that, we passed an hour.
Just in time.
Just in time. We're professionals.
Very much so.
All right. Well, on that note,
we'll talk about it next week.
We're going to talk about all the things next week.